Hello, friends of the Buffalo Naval Park. Shane Stevenson here, Director of Museum Collections Curator. And for today's short video, this is going back into the Proceedings. Alright, oh no, another video about the Proceedings. Wonk wonk. Okay, well, this was from... Now, what they did was they would bind multiple issues together. So if we're looking at 1 year, 12 issues of Proceedings, they would bind them into two books, so to speak, and the books are really thick. So tucked away in the July to December 1930 was this pullout, probably 8.5 by 14 inches or so, and this reviews the statistical data on combatant vessels. So this, and I'll show it to you, of course. This reviews, as of June 1st, 1930, the state of the 5 belligerents that fell under the Washington Treaty, and then the recently signed London Treaty. I believe that was April of 1930. And this is June of 1930. So it breaks the vessels down into combatants: battleships, aircraft carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and submarines. And then what it also does is it lists the effective dates for overage and underage. Now, part of the treaties were that they said all work had to, especially for the Washington Treaty, all work had to stop on battleships, battle cruisers. They allowed 2 aircraft carriers to be built. And they didn't really have much regulation on cruisers, so Japan really took advantage of that up until the London Treaty in 1930. Then in 1930 they did cruisers, destroyers, and submarines with tonnage limitations, overall tonnage limitations, and then of course Japan just started to ignore that by the mid-30s. So going back to overage and underage, for battleships, aircraft carriers, that overage underage was 20 years, and then once a ship hit over 20 years in that category of large combatant ship, they would then be able to replace it, in addition to then the moratorium on battleship building at all. Cruisers also fell under the 20 years, considered a large combatant. Destroyers fell into, or anything under 3,000 tons, fell into a 16-year overage, underage window. And then for submarines, it was 13 years, overage, underage. So, of course, the Great Depression in America, we are focusing on building domestic programs, labor, WPA, and so the U.S. Navy really begins to fall behind the 4 other World War I belligerents that signed these treaties. And so then by 1934, you have the Vincent Traml Act, which codifies and provides appropriations and authorizations to bring us up to strength for all of the overage ships. So by 1934, there's a lot of overage ships. Again, this graph index is from 1930, so we're 4 years away from that. I would like to digitize this and make this available. Again, if I'm just doing a video, you might say, hey, that's cool, but I'll never see it again, or something. So I'd like to get this digitized in some way and then make it available to people. So if we take a look, statistical data on combatant vessels correct to June 1st, 1930. And here we go right here. Capital ships under effective age of 20 years. So that means they are underage. Once you hit 21 years, you're considered over. Now it does, again, but the 11 by, or say 8.5 by 14, United States, British Empire, Japan, France, and Italy. So we're just going to be focusing on the United States. But you can see how large they are, and there's about 8 sheets or so. So it has battleships. You're really getting close to the overage here. 1929, this is 1930. All right, so Florida, Utah, Wyoming. Oh, those are laid down dates. So completed dates. So you're looking at 1931, 31, 32, 32. So you're beginning to consider that these are getting right to the start of being overage. 4 aircraft carriers. All right, you can see the construction dates there. Again, they fall under the 20 years overage, underage. They've appropriated 1 more for a grand total of 4. Now we're looking into the cruisers. Again, the effective age cutoff for over and under is 20 years. You can see that these wouldn't really fall anytime soon. We'd be looking at 1950, 1950, 1949, and so on. The Omaha and Milwaukee and Cincinnati, they're getting close. 1943 or so. But of course, by that time, treaties were tossed right out the window. So now if I just flip the page for the United States, right, they just have a blank space. Now you have what they're building. Right? And then canceled because of the London Treaty, probably. So you have the Chester, Houston, Chicago, Augusta already almost completed or completed. Right, then you have the New Orleans and Portland classes, like kind of right here. The Indianapolis, they actually highlight. They've appropriated these 5. Right, so that's kind of like the Wichita, San Francisco, Quincy, Vincennes. And now you're getting into the Brooklyns as well. For the cruisers that are already overage, you've got these 4. Now we get to the destroyers, right? Laid down, completed, displacement, speed, main battery, anti-aircraft battery, torpedoes. All right, you can see them all here under the World War I building programs. Continued. So in 1930, we would have had 213 destroyers for a total tonnage of 217,503. You can then see the blank spaces. Building, none. Appropriated, none. Authorized, none. These are destroyers that have already met their overage of 16 years. So these would be able to come off the books and they would be able to rebuild and modernize. I think it was about 12 years before 12 years in between constructing destroyers. Now for United States submarines. The V's, S's, R's. Alright, so these would have a ways yet to go. But now these are 13 years. Overage would be considered 13 and above, or 14 in the following year. So we'd be looking at 1933 or so, 1934 for the R class. And certainly now into this, they're completed in 1918 for World War I. Those are right at the edge of getting over age. And at the time we were building 2. They had appropriated for 2 more. And these are the ones that were ready for disposition. They had already reached their overage. What I do find interesting, going back to the first page with the battleships, is some of them had torpedo tubes. Interesting. Not the earlier ones, but the later ones. So that's why it was so important, the Vincent Traml Act of 1934. Again, we were focused on domestic programs, labor, grabbing the Americans and dragging them out of the Great Depression with a lot of federal funding, flush with cash programs, building. And so Vincent and Trammell come along and they say, well, we can't neglect our Navy because it's so neglected by 1934. And we are falling well behind the other belligerents. And so again, by 1936, the Second London, Japan's already involved in China. Germany is ramping up their war machine. So Vincent and Trammell said, we are going to appropriate funds for the replacement of overage, 20 years, 16 years, and 13 years, for overage vessels. Again, we were still adhering to the treaties, tonnage, construction, and actual ships, but this really allowed the Navy to have those funds guaranteed for replacement. Well, this is just one of the, just one of those interesting articles or so that you'd see in the proceedings. I'd love to get these digitized and get them available to you, because I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there like yourself that would be really interested in reviewing this list. So maybe that's what well, oh my gosh, all right. This must be the destroyer page. Yes. So just imagine the data that can be gleaned from this for research and just personal interest. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for all your support. And you know what? We'll see you again soon.